Tests. So great to see you guys here. This is really fantastic.
Good to be here, Ruggero.
All right. So I'm checking in right now with our platforms, and we seem to be going live. So, all right. Perfect. I'd say we just kick it off and start the conversation. And Arman, I think we can just go for it. So great to see you guys here. Jean, Mike, Arman, thank you so much, guys, for being here. Really, really excited.
Thanks for having us. Yeah, go ahead. So welcome everyone to the post-screening Q&A of V6A's virtual screening. Hope you all had a chance to watch the movie. If not, I believe it's still going to be playing until the end of today. Correct, Ruggero? And yeah, the screening comes during Homelessness Action Week, which just is about to end as of today. And yeah, this initiative was organized by Movies Move Us in collaboration with the City of Vancouver, and we're so lucky to have Jean Swanson as a representative of the City Council. Jean Swanson herself, she's an anti-poverty activist and joined City Council in 2018 as the only member of the Coalition of Progressive Electors candidate during the same period, actually, that V6A was filmed and basically released. So she's also a writer in Vancouver and continues to advocate for policy changes represented in the film, as currently the only COPE member of the Vancouver City Council. So thank you for being with us, Jean.
My pleasure.
And we also have Mike Richter, who's one of the subjects of the wonderful film. Mike's a musician and facilitator of the sing-along choir at the Carnegie Community Center and a general community member and present face in and around the neighborhood. So welcome, Mike.
Thank you very much, Arman.
And joining us not too far away from Venice, Italy, is Ruggero Romano, who's actually the director of V6A and founder of Movies Move Us. How are you doing, Ruggero?
I'm feeling great. Very happy to be here.
It's not too late for you, is it?
No, not at all. It's a great time here, and thank you, Arman, for moderating this conversation. Arman is the creative director of the MENA Film Festival, so thank you for being here. Really appreciate it.
Of course, yeah. And just before we begin, I just want to acknowledge that most of us, except for Ruggero, are tuning in from the unceded territories of the Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, and Musqueam First Nations, and just to make that acknowledgement. And yeah, so maybe we can take it off. I had a kind of leading question before we begin discussing. The film, as I mentioned, it was made in like 2018, released in 2019. Now, obviously, a lot has changed since then in the last 2 years, not just with COVID, but a lot of housing policies, municipal government has changed. How has the area itself and questions around houselessness changed in Vancouver since the film first screened? And maybe I can direct this question to Jean Swanson as someone who's active in these conversations.
Yeah, well, I was there during parts of the things that were filmed, like when the tent city was moving from Main Street over to the other place next to the tracks, and when we had the demonstration about the Balmoral and the Regent, and we were trying to get housing for people there. I was at both of those things. But since then, things have gotten worse for people who are low-income people and for folks in the neighborhood. COVID has made things worse because of physical distancing. The shelters haven't been able to take so many people, and a lot of SROs are banning visitors just for physical distancing. So that homelessness has gone up. We don't know by how much because we didn't have a count last year because of COVID, but everyone thinks that it's gone up. So that's been really bad. And the other thing that's bad is the poison drug crisis has gotten way worse, probably because the border is closed and the people who profit from drugs are making their own, and they're making them poison, and people are dying. So in BC, we're losing about 6 people a day from poison drugs. So those two things have gotten a lot worse. Yeah.
So you believe COVID has kind of exacerbated the
Yeah, it has.
crisis?
Yeah.
Mike, what do you kind of reflect that, being kind of on the ground and active in these communities?
Well, it's you see a lot of people struggling. It's hard to understand why such a wealthy society can't simply provide more housing for people. It's a question of political will, I think, and basically, I feel like most people, certainly in Canada, would like to see things improve, but it's hard to break out of the way things are set up and just do things differently. So it's but I'm optimistic with people like Jean Jean has been working for so long to improve things, and many things have been accomplished. Jean was very instrumental in having Carnegie Community Center established back in I think about 1980. Jean, right? Is that correct?
Yeah.
And I think this is one area actually where things can be really effectively done by providing public places like Carnegie where people can go. We can't always improve the individual living situations, but if we provide something that is open to the public and helps people, certainly for myself personally, Carnegie Center has been invaluable for me during my time in Vancouver since about 1995. So I just want to stress that.
Yeah, and with COVID, I guess, has, besides the policy question, do you find the cultural dynamics have shifted in the area for better or worse? Have people kind of come together, or is there a little bit more disjunct in the community?
It's of course it's caused more separation. For example, I can't even everything basically all the programs at Carnegie's had to stop.
Mm.
So the sing along choir has not happened for some time now. Basically since
Yeah.
COVID started. So I mean, I've been singing with a few people in the park in Woodland Park, but so far that's the best I've been able to do. So it's and that's just one example of so many programs that have had to stop. So it's put a lot more stress on people, I think, not having these outlets. So
Yeah, and I think people often forget the cultural sort of losses around these times, not just the health and economic. Ruggero, yeah, go. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Another issue we had is that Oppenheimer Park was closed for about a year, including the community space there, which had a lot of programming operating out of it. It's kind of open now, although it still has a fence around it, but I don't think the programming is up to the same level that it was before COVID. And now, of course, winter is coming, so people will have to do more things inside, which means physical distancing, and things will be more difficult again.
Yeah, and also I guess the question of relocation of tent city in Strathcona Park, and access to resources in that respect is a little bit more touchy, I think.
So we desperately need more housing. Because the people at Strathcona Park held out, we managed to get some money from the feds and from the province to buy like the Patricia Hotel and some hotels up on Kingsway. And we got some money for a modular building that just opened on Vernon. But one of the problems is that some of the modular housing that we had before, their leases are getting over, like the one in Little Mountain. So those
Right.
people are all having to be moved into the new housing that we're getting. so that people who are homeless can't go into them. So we still need a lot more housing that low-income people can afford, and higher welfare rates. The welfare rates now are, I think, what are they, $9.30 for a single person, with shelter component being $3.75. So tell me where you can rent a place in Vancouver for $3.75 that isn't social housing. You can't, right? So
Yeah, that kind of leads me to a next question I had. But before I do that, I just want to remind people who are watching, audiences, they can definitely, whether you're on this chat or on YouTube Live, you can add a comment, a question, and we'd love to get to it and present it to the panel. Yeah, just around that question of houselessness versus homelessness, and maybe this is something you can weigh in with Ruggero. How does that dynamic sort of fit into this, into the film, but also what you've seen, how you've seen the community develop since 2018, 2019 when you first shot the film?
This is a great question. Most definitely, the duality and the contrast between words house and home was the spark to this project. I wouldn't say in Italian we have the correspondent to house and home in our language.
Mhm.
We say casa, and casa equals home as well as house. When I came to Canada and I could just explore the language and just apply it to my daily life, I started to realize that there was a completely different weight, of course, to the two words. And to me, it was all about exploring the space in between those two words from the point of view of the community of the Downtown Eastside, which is almost it really felt like a family to me that welcomed me, that embraced me. And I remember when I started washing dishes literally on the border of postal code V6A and between Gastown and the Downtown Eastside. From those moments, I really started to spend more time at the Carnegie. And that is why, and it's so fascinating to see how the Carnegie was really the crucial point. It's almost like the sun of the solar system of the Downtown Eastside. And that's what led me to meet people like Mike that have changed my life in Vancouver. And it was incredible for me to simply just say, okay, I don't want to hide from the truth anymore. Let's step into the truth of this city. And I quickly realized that the Vancouver Downtown Eastside, it's the pearl of Vancouver. Some people might call it a sickness, but in truth, it's the beauty of the shell. And from that point of view, from this perspective, I came in to do my best and amplify the voices of the community members of the Downtown Eastside through a film. And it only could happen through the crack that was opened between the words house and home. So that was really the crucial point. That was the two pillars that would hold everything up, really.
that's amazing to hear about Carnegie. Back in between 2008 and 2010, Wendy Peterson and I did a community visioning exercise, working with the Carnegie Community Action Project. And we asked people all over the neighborhood what was their most meaningful place. And of course, Carnegie won hands down. And I think it was also interesting what you said about Carnegie being the sun of the solar system of the Downtown Eastside, and the Downtown Eastside being the beauty of Vancouver. My late partner, Sandy, said that the Downtown Eastside was the soul of Vancouver.
Most definitely. Most definitely. Yeah, I would love to hear from you, Mike, as well, man, because I mean, you facilitate the sing-along choir, and I fell in love. I really fell in love. One of the first days where I was volunteering in the kitchen of the Carnegie, I remember at least hearing some music. Someone opened the door, and I could hear some music. And I was like, "What's going on there?" And going up the stairs, and your music lured me into the sing-along choir. What an incredible space, man! I would love to, you know, to have you share how you started the sing-along choir and how things are going now.
Well, I should go back a little bit, because when I essentially settled in Vancouver in 1995, I discovered at Carnegie a family of musicians who took part in the music program in the Carnegie Theater, which basically is a program that started in 1980 with the when Carnegie started and has continued ever since. And it was a real and so many people, so many wonderful people, and it was a great musical family. Music is a pretty wonderful thing for bringing people together, especially participatory music. I think is a very positive thing. You know, that's folk music traditions have that. Um, and the gypsies. There's a great movie. I don't know if you've seen it called Lacho Dram about the gypsies, and you can see in that movie how music holds that community so strongly together. So for me, that was a reflection. Now there's a little bit of sadness involved there too, because as Jean mentioned, the lifespans in the downtown east side tend to be shorter. So many of the people from that family have passed on to their next adventure. So uh, there's a bit of sadness, a bit of nostalgia there as well. But
Maybe that's this
but that was
this
really, and Carnegie provided the opportunity for me to really focus on music, and that led eventually to starting the sing along choir. That was it was kind of it was kind of interesting because I had been thinking about that sort of idea in my mind, and then without me bringing anything up, Rika, who's the music programmer at Carnegie, actually contacted me and said she would like to start something like that. So that dovetailed with what I had already been thinking, and I had to resist a little bit the idea of making it a performance choir, because I wanted the focus to be more recreational, to be a little more relaxed, so people could just come and enjoy singing, and the focus wouldn't be on practicing, and performing. So just music for enjoyment, which is really. I was fortunate enough to grow up in a family where that was the case, where music was for enjoyment and you know, for getting that family feeling happening.
yeah,
So,
you've touched on so many like interesting points that I wanted to raise actually, and it kind of
oh,
forms a great transition. But to bring it back, I guess, to the film itself,
yeah,
and that question of home and how it's not necessarily a house is a structure, but a home is where there's a quote from the film. Home is where you're safe not feel love, where you can be ugly. And to me, the interesting thing is how in the film how intimate we become with the subjects and the characters. And I want to bring it ask Ruggero how, in terms of the film and making the movie, how did you get so close to the characters and kind of develop that trust with them so that they could feel okay to be ugly in front of the camera, and even your process of getting involved in the Carnegie Center community yourself.
There is a lot there because we are definitely stepping into we're definitely stepping into a very delicate space when especially making a film about a topic like this, because we have to be aware that the camera at this point, it has a heat, it projects heat on the subject, a judgmental heat too, and so our job is to turn that heat into the warmth of a hug that can empower people to speak their truth. That process was about being authentic about the purpose of those conversations. And I remember even having interviews with people that were speaking about subjects or themes that I knew they were not gonna make it into the film, but I still kept rolling because I knew that listening to them was more important than getting the shot. And this was a priority. Because sometimes just the holistic nature of listening and providing a platform, it opens up so many doors. It has always been about providing that platform, about creating that space. Then what came up to shape the film was a consequence of all of this. So I would say that there is no secret sauce or anything that is related to achieving the vulnerability, because it's not about, and it's never been about achieving the vulnerability. It's always been about amplifying the voice. And the vulnerability came as a consequence of that authentic desire to amplify that voice. So it's always been about that. And I would never, ever put myself in the situation of exploiting someone. And actually, before screening the film and getting the film out there, I remember bringing people together in the theater, in a room at the Carnegie, actually in the room where Mike usually hosts the sing-along choir, and bringing people together there and screening the film and asking, is this okay with you guys? Are you guys okay with this? And I was ready to take scenes out. I was so ready because I knew some scenes were very vulnerable. But then everybody said, yes, we support this. And that was the best confirmation, saying that the process was done right. And then I remember even hunting some people in the neighborhood, because not everybody could arrive and could join that specific screening. And so going to every single person that was in the film and literally into their house or wherever they would stay, and showing them the film or sending them links to watch the film and telling them, hey, is this okay? And only until I got a confirmation from everyone in the film, then I felt aligned and I knew that the film could make it out there. So it was a long process, lots of work and research, but necessary and also worth it for sure.
That's so good that you asked them if they were okay with what you used. That's really, really great.
Oh, for sure. Had to do that. I mean, I absolutely had to do that. No way I would have gone the other way around. I knew it from the beginning that was not going to happen. And I actually have some crazy stories of actually going to people's places to show them the film without making any names. I remember just arriving in a space and they said, okay, we want to screen the film. And I look around and there is no TV, there is nothing. And I only have it on a USB drive. And then I what are we gonna do? And this person lifts up the table, and I see under the table a bunch of stolen tech just right there, and I'm like, damn, what is this? And then they asked me, can we do something out of this? And I tried to piece together a screening kit out of all that stuff, and oh my god! And then I remember watching the film with an improvised setup, and the emotion that came out of this, the rawness and the way the character that was there watching the film with me and watching the film with that person, how impactful that was, how meaningful, and most importantly, how necessary. How can any filmmaker not do this? It's probably the most rewarding step of the process, and I hold it here in my heart till this day, and I will forever. Absolutely necessary. So yeah, I have lots of really crazy memories of actually looking for these people around the neighborhood and showing them the film, and the emotionality that came out of watching the film with them and talking about it.
Thanks so much, Ruggero. Yeah, I kind of have a follow-up question to that, which may be a bit controversial. Before I do that, I'd love to again open it up to anyone in the audience who has questions. Definitely feel free to throw a question in the YouTube chat or wherever you might be viewing. The question, I guess, I think one thing you did very successfully in the film is you didn't allow the film to moralize in a way. You allowed the characters to speak for themselves, and there's a lot of long-winded passages, but that's just because that's that you follow the natural flow and trajectory of the individual speaking's tone and rhythm of voice, which is great. But there's always the question, you can't make a film or talk about the Downtown Eastside without encountering the issue of representation and depiction, and especially as an outsider from that community coming in and presuming to reflect the community in an authentic way. And I think you kind of subtly address that question in how you shoot the media shooting the community. There's that section around the Balmoral Hotel protest, and there's a whole scrum of reporters around this one subject, and you go behind her to show how mediated truly narratives around that community are, which is great. But did you yourself receive any criticism about how you showed the community and the perspective that you showed, and how did you respond to that criticism?
That's
Especially, the more vulnerable moments, especially.
Most definitely. And one of the first criticisms that actually came through was related to the imbalance of male and female subjects in the film. And to me, that was really interesting because it was not a direct focus. So I did not plan to say and to count exactly how many characters and for how much time in the film they would speak. But it was about shaping and forging a message by touching on different points of view and different members of the community with different lifestyles within the context of that community, so that the whole conversation and the whole journey would be almost like a symposium. Different members of the community coming together for a longer speech, a longer conversation. It's almost like the same person and the same entity that speaks through the different characters. That's where I felt like I was drawn to. But what was interesting is that then, after I received that criticism, I actually went to look for the statistics, and I then noticed that the amount of time that male and female characters had been represented on screen, it actually matched very closely to the percentage of male and female members in the community, especially that were on the streets. So this is something that's interesting to explore, because it speaks also of the organic process of filmmaking, and how if we get to truly listen to the footage as documentary filmmakers, when we sit down in front of the editing room and we get to compare the footage, compare the substance of the conversation and the different elements that are part of the footage that was captured, if you can truly feel the dailies, the footage, and contextualize it to represent the community, then things can come together cohesively in harmony. And again, it's so hard to be able to say what is a fair representation, especially in this context. So I don't want to put myself in a position to provide an answer to the question of what is fair representation. But what I wanted to do is most definitely try to find the balance between the articulation of the message and the synthesis, because the film is 1 hour and 7 minutes, it's 67 minutes. And because of that limit, simply because of the fact that we have a limit as filmmakers, whether it's 1 hour, 60 minutes, 90 minutes, or whatever that is, we really have to balance it. And that's where it goes down to doing research, engaging with the community, even reading the percentages and the statistics and the surveys. So there is definitely a lot to this conversation. And when it comes to that, I always go back to the necessity for us as storytellers to do research and to engage authentically. We have to engage authentically, because we have to make sure that we're not only representing the community, but that in some way we are also the community. And that was the starting point, as a consequence of joining the process and joining the ride and all the initiatives and activities. And of course, the nature of the process was truly surrendering to the community and the message of the community. So I always feel like I've been just a conduit and everything came through me, because the film is bigger than any individual, and any individual in the community. The film is a representation, it's a flag. And so you just have to be transparent. You just have to be the glue. But the substance, it's always been in the community.
If I can reflect, maybe bounce that back to Mike and Jean, who are, I guess, more active members of the community. How do you feel that representation comes across? Is it authentic? And feel free to be critical if you want to, but how did you feel that the film dealt with that question of representation?
I thought it was okay. I was looking for Indigenous people to be interviewed because there's a lot of Indigenous folks in the Downtown Eastside, but there were several Indigenous folks who spoke, so I think that was good. Yeah, I think it was good.
Mike, do you?
That if I can just go off in slightly in another direction, off a tangent off that. Now there are many, of course, there are many remote Indigenous communities in Canada and in BC in particular, and of course a lot of people from those communities come to the Downtown Eastside, come to Vancouver, looking for a life they can build there, and it often ends up to be more challenging than they supposed. And I just think going back to the to what I brought up earlier about how in the Downtown Eastside, of course, Carnegie is a wonderful community space. Now, I do feel that it would be a very helpful thing for the Canadian government to assist Aboriginal communities to establish good community centers, good public places in those remote Aboriginal communities, so that the kids growing up there would have spaces where they could feel they could build something from, activity where they could get involved in activities. So community centers, sports centers, all kinds of things are possible. And I think when you provide these kind of public spaces, it's a very concrete way to support these communities, and that would make less that would create less pressure for young Aboriginal people to come to the Downtown Eastside, hoping for who knows what, who knows what's going to happen when they get here. Sometimes we all know that that trying to establish ourselves in modern society is not always as easy as it seems, and it takes you have to have a lot of support and a lot of preparation when you're growing up. There's all kinds of factors in resources and support that are provided to us when we're young in order to be able to prepare ourselves to enter a modern society. And even when you have that support, it can still be incredibly challenging. So I think supporting these communities at their root, right at the where they live, where the kids are starting from, that would be and doing that through establishing public spaces where people can have support, kids can have support while they're growing up, would be a good step in the right direction.
There is another great movie called Downtown Stories that the city helped fund, I think, that interviews all Indigenous folks about the Downtown Eastside and talks about how they feel comfortable and accepted there. So that's kind of a compliment to yours, Ruggero.
Oh, that would be interesting to see, Jean. I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
I wanted to pick up on something Mike said earlier, I think around the question of people kind of passing through the area and the individuals reflected in the film. I wanted to maybe allow Ruggero to maybe comment on some of the people in the film who are no longer with us, who played a role in the film and kind of have, and maybe just in the larger question of dealing with loss in a community like this, especially as Jean mentioned that the pandemic has also come on the heels of a much larger epidemic of substance use and overdosing. Did you want to maybe reflect on that for a moment?
Yeah, there are at the moment that I know of 2 people that are no longer here with us. The first one in the film is Chai Peak, and the second one is Angel. And Angel is playing the guitar with Wendy. Um, there is a scene, a segment at the beginning of the movie that is it really stands out as an extremely authentic moment where Angel and Wendy are singing together to their love. And this is quite a story because with Angel, I remember being told by Wendy 2 months before the screening of the film, we had agreed with the Van City Theater to premiere the film in January 2019, and in October, November 2018, I received the news that uh, basically Angel was no longer there, and that opened up a huge ethical dilemma because I had to understand, was it correct to screen a film where one of the characters was not here anymore, especially for reasons directly related to the nature of the community and the theme that's part of the film. So I remember we reached out, and Wendy suggested let's reach out to Angel's brother. So we tracked down Angel's brother, Matthew, and we sent him a message and we sent him the link to the film. And we asked him, the film is going to screen. We are aware of what happened. We just want to make sure this is okay with you. This sits right with you. And after a few days, he reached back and he confirmed and he said, yes, it's okay to screen the film. And that was very meaningful. But the magic happened right after. About 5 months later, which was 2 to 3 months after the premiere, we had very busy months. And it was February, March, April 2019, and it was Family Day, which I had no idea what it was at the time in Canada. And I was just walking down the street for a stroll, and I sat down on a bench on Victory Square, which is where we shot the scene with Wendy and Angel. It was the exact square. And sitting there on the bench at a certain moment, someone comes and he says, I think, hold on, are you Ruggero? And at the moment, I felt embarrassed because I had never seen this person before. And I asked the person, who are you? Have we met before? And he said, I'm Angel's brother. And I had a moment of shock, and I realized Angel's brother, he lives 6 hours by car from Vancouver. And today he's here in Victory Square. And I took a moment and asked him, what are you doing here today? And he became all red and he said, today is Family Day, and I came here to Vancouver in Victory Square to celebrate this day because the scene in the film is the last memory I have of my sister. That is something that is a feeling I will never forget, and it speaks to the power of a power that's even outside of our hands as human beings, of something that lives way beyond us. And I like to think that Angel is listening as we share her story, and as her brother showed up for her in the realm of this film and its representation. So yeah, that's something that always comes to mind when thinking about the question you asked, Arman.
Thanks for sharing that. And for folks who've seen the movie or who have yet to see it, I believe Angel's in the early scenes of the film, she's sitting at Victory Square beside Mary, and she's singing the song "Crazy." Do you think I'm crazy? So
Right.
Just
Right.
pay honor to that scene. I think we lost Mike. I'm not sure if he's able to come back or not, but that's funny because I did want to ask a question. and that segues from your comment about music, because music is such an instrumental part of this film. From the beginning to end, almost every single character has a guitar, and I don't think that's a coincidence. I truly think that, in a way, music is a redeeming cultural value, but also a political weapon in this fight against houselessness. And yeah, I did want to ask Mike, but maybe I can reflect that question back to Ruggero and Jean. Um, what role music, and in your experience capturing these scenes, poetry has in the cultural life of this area? How does it help sustain them, or serve as like a nexus of political discourse, in a way, political and social discourse?
I would
Do you
love
find
to
that?
pass this question to Jean.
Yeah.
So I think art is really important in the Downtown Eastside. Music, poetry, painting, drawing, collaging. I know Carnegie had a lot of art workshops. I took one of them. There is a famous poet from the Downtown Eastside, Bud Osborne, who wrote a number of poetry books and also another book called Raise Shit. And he was really active in trying to save the lives of people who use drugs. And my late partner, Sandy Cameron, was a poet who wrote lots of poems about the Downtown Eastside. And music is really important too. I know Carnegie has lots of music workshops, and there's a Chinese choir that's really neat. And music and art of all kinds does play a huge role in political change. I think if you can involve art, there's another side of people that gets happening and makes the political work more communal. So yeah, it's really important. I noticed that too, about how a lot of the people that you interviewed had guitars.
Mm-hmm. There's also a great quote in the film. Someone holds a guitar and says, "With this, you can start a revolution." And I thought that was such a powerful moment that kind of encapsulates that what you were speaking about, Jean. Sorry, Roger, you were going to say something?
Yeah, that was G-Pow who said that. Shout out to G-Pow right there. And I believe he's one of the most articulate people in the film to truly shine a light and be very, 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 very articulate in everything that he shares. The power of the guitar and the symbol of the guitar, it speaks to also the kindness of the community to also share music and share the skills to play music with one another. And I witnessed this at the Carnegie, where you can actually go and grab a guitar and you can literally learn. Before the pandemic, you could learn and just sit down in the open spaces because you could grab a big guitar from the front desk. So it speaks to the necessity of music to unite people in the face of suffering. It's almost like the guitar functions as a gateway to resiliency. It creates a space for everyone in the community to let their hearts sing. And the art that's part of the Downtown Eastside is not only a part of it. The art is the Downtown Eastside. The art is the oxygen of the community. And there is no way we could ever detach one from the other. And it is through this integrated faculty of arts, community, and expression that all of the inspiration for people to create more actually comes from. It's a cycle. Art brings more art. And you don't need to go even too far. Between the Carnegie, Oppenheimer Park, or the streets, there are plenty of ways to interact with local artists. They will simply speak their hearts to you because it's in their calling, it's in their purpose. And when you get to engage and tune into the true essence of the art that's made there. It's not only an art that screams for attention, which is something that really spoke to me personally, and it fueled my purpose to provide them with the platform to have that attention, but it's an art that shares hope from every corner. And the music of the Downtown Eastside, the visual arts of the Downtown Eastside, everything that has to do with the artists who are an extension of the spirit of the community through the arts. It's a privilege to experience that art. And unfortunately, for the people who have not experienced that before within the community, I invite them to take a step to go to the Downtown Eastside and immerse and surrender to the beauty and harmony of all that art. Because again, if there is a soul in Vancouver, it's in the Downtown Eastside. And if it's in the Downtown Eastside, it resides in the art of the people. Because people are art and art is the people. It starts from there, and it always started from there.
Yeah, and I think something that isn't often talked about when everyone has an opinion about the Downtown Eastside, but just how much color there is there. How much when you walk down the street, yeah, you hear a lot of things that you don't want to hear or see. But you also hear a lot of music, a lot of people talking, a lot of community, and I think that's really something that the rest of Vancouver could perhaps learn from, is just how the spontaneity of the cultural life there, and it's perhaps the most colorful, the most spontaneously colorful, just visually part of Vancouver, in my opinion. Yeah.
When we did the community asset mapping, art was one of the big community assets that people identified. It was all the people that were involved in art of one sort or another.
Thanks for that.
Like the City Festival, that's happening now, I think, or very soon.
Was it?
The Heart of the City Festival?
Right, yeah.
It happens every October and into November, and it involves community folks in, art, poetry, dance.
Here, I'll just link that in the YouTube chat so people can.
Yeah, it's amazing, and it involves all local residents and doing their, what they can do best.
Thanks. Yeah, I'd love to again open it up to anyone watching if you have questions or reflections on the film or some of the topics we've been discussing. In the meantime, I would love to know, Ruggero, have you kept up with anyone from the film? Do you, Jason obviously was a big character. I think he's almost like the guide, your guide through the community, or like Rainbow John, for example. Have you kept track with anyone, or can give us updates?
Yes, and it's been a lot of fun because most definitely it's been easier. Up until May this year, I was in Vancouver, so it was actually easier and more authentic. I would just run across Wendy in the Downtown Eastside. I remember, of course, running into Rainbow John in the community, and I believe that when you go through an experience like this with someone, you just jump straight to another level of connection, because you have a vision, and until the film is not completed, you don't know what that vision is. So there is an unconditional trust in the process, and there is nothing stronger than unconditional trust to actually bond people. That unconditional trust in the future, into a project, into the creation of something that can actually represent and express what is meaningful to you. I have huge, incredible memories with everyone, and I'm thinking about Brandon, Wendy, Rainbow John, Jason, G-Pow, Curtis. It just never ends, and there have been people that I've had the chance to encounter more often after the film, and some a little bit less. It's natural. But I am thinking about the people that have put their heart and soul into the film, and how without them, without any person, without the film, of course, wouldn't be what it is if it wasn't for every single person who's in the film. There are people who stick around a little longer, like Jason, like Rainbow John, like Brandon. that really supported the process. And so I extend a very warm hug to all of them, in addition to, of course, the one and only Mike that we lost. But they've been around, and if it wasn't for them, this wouldn't be what it is, and it wouldn't even mean as much to me or to anyone else. So it's a really big team. Not only the technical team probably is very small behind this film, but the human film in front of the camera is huge. And so I always want to share that. I always want to mention that. It's very important to say that and to remind ourselves of how the team expands in front, behind, and also in front of the camera in every direction.
Yeah, and I just want to reflect that I've seen this movie from its early stages, but when there was a rough cut to what it is now, and I want to attest to the heart and dedication that you've put into the film, and the receptivity you have to telling these people's stories without editorializing it. So big shout out to you. Do you want to tell everyone how they can continue seeing the film, and maybe Jean, reflect a little bit about the Homelessness Action Week that this is all part of?
Sure. One of the things that interested me a lot about the film was how just about everyone who was interviewed said, "Oh, hi, Mike.
Hey, Mike.
Hello, I'm back. We had a
Welcome
little
back.
technical issue, but we're back.
Okay, no worries.
So I wrote down some quotes as I was watching. People forgive me for stupid stuff down here.
Yeah.
Lunatics that worship money. Mike said, people don't fit into the model that the rest of the world would like us to fit into. And I'm thinking, a big part of that model is capitalism. And another guy said, money doesn't fix shit. People with two hands do. And somebody else said, organizational rules are crushing the working poor. We should use our power to help, not own. And we're a community and a family. And it's the system that drags me from real life. We are alive and resisting. So before the live part of this started, Ruggero said that he didn't want the film to be political. He wanted to be about humanity. And I think it definitely was about humanity. But the thing is, if you really care about humanity, you have to be political. You have to want housing for people who are homeless. You have to want adequate incomes. You have to want to save the planet. And so I think while it isn't overtly political, when you look at all the things that people said, they are aware of how this system is crushing them. And I think it's a good message that we need to fight back. And as that one person said, we're alive and resisting. And that's actually one of the community assets that we found when we did our community mapping, was that people in the Downtown Eastside fight for justice. So that's even though you didn't want it to be political, Ruggero, I think it was.
Most definitely. I mean, who am I to say what the film is? I think the film is in the audience's hands from the moment it's released. So the film can be anything the audience wants, and actually the film is nothing without the audience. So I really want to make sure that the film is everybody's space to explore. And to that point, yes, I didn't plan to make the film as a political piece. It was never meant to be, and from my point of view, it isn't. It's a human exploration, but through that human exploration, certain elements come through very clearly. And the first shot of the film, the one with the dog eating out the puppy, that shot is the first shot because it opens up the door onto possibly that dynamic. So that scene is a microcosm of the scene and the theme that the film is exploring. The point that you're making there is that through all these quotes that you've shared, it's impossible to not consider them political. Yet I think that the power of film, through the editing, the music, the transitions, it enables us to place those quotes into a humanized context. And I think that's the next step. so that the film doesn't fall into a specific category, but it enables us to see it as a mirror that we can reflect certain thoughts, feelings, or ideas onto. And that's what I noticed, that through the multiple screenings, physical and virtual screenings that we did for the past years, is that people would see what they wanted to see in the film, because that was their reflection, that was their inner, that was their simply their inner experiences and projection on the film and the community coming back at them. And I think there is nothing more beautiful than that, because it speaks to the power of film as a medium, and to the power of every single member that spoke their truth in front of the camera.
Can just a few words, maybe how people can watch the film and until when it's going to be available?
Yeah, most definitely. I think that the film is available until the end of October 17th to
Okay.
watch for free on watchv6a.com as part of Homelessness Action Week. And it's been a pleasure to put this together in collaboration with the City of Vancouver, especially because it was a dream. At the beginning, Mike, I remember chatting with you and saying, man, I have this dream. I want to make this film. And you believed in me. You know, I felt like you really believed in me. And I would dream of being able to create a space where the film would be embraced and supported by the City of Vancouver. And as I slowly made the film, I realized, man, this is very controversial. I don't think necessarily this might happen. But then it happened. And again, the not only the power of the dream, but the power of the medium and the power of the community. Because if it wasn't for the community, this would never happen. Really, endless possibilities and potential. And I am optimistic for the future of the Downtown Eastside from the heart. What it takes is a lot of determination, a lot of dedication, a lot of consistency, but it's through people like you, Mike and Jean, that have planted their roots there and continuously do meaningful work to support the community. That's how change happens. And I have immense gratitude for people like you. And there are many in the Downtown Eastside. And that is why, as you say, Jean, the Downtown Eastside will resist because of that substance, that soul. It doesn't go anywhere.
You're getting political.
Well,
I mean,
I
I'll take it. I'll take it.
I do think we have to remember that everyone on this planet is involved in a tremendous project, a collective creative enterprise, in trying to create a civilization where everybody belongs. And that's going to take, like you said, Ruggero, a lot of determination, a lot of faith in each other, believing in each other, believing in all of us.
Thanks so much. Yeah, I think that's a great note to end on. I'd love to leave it there. But any last words for anyone like Ruggero, Mike, Jean, to part our audience with, or
I'm
for each
good.
other? Okay.
I would love to open up the conversation to anyone who's listening. I think this would be a good time to post a question or anything. But it's been really a pleasure, and guys, it's really been a long way. I mean, to see from the vision of the film back in 2016, Mike, and you writing on the first page of that diary, which I still have. Yeah. And then going through the process of shooting it on the streets completely independently, and then editing it and showing it to the people and screening it, and all the way to now. And so I would actually love to ask everyone here, what do you think could be V6A's next step, and how can I be of help through the film? It's a big question.
Just getting it shown.
Mm-hmm.
Is it online? Is it available for people to?
Well, it's online through the screening show and tell that we have until the end of today. I'm
Yeah,
not sure, Ruggero, is it available elsewhere after today?
What I'm planning to do is to mostly make it available for the community, of course, in the Downtown Eastside through the Carnegie, as many times as possible. And also, what we've been doing is we want to organize a free screening with a free meal for all the community through the Carnegie. And this is something that we want to put together for sure before the end of the year. But we want this to be consistent. And the most important thing is that whenever an audience member or a community member at the Carnegie wants to watch the film, they should be able to. So we are in touch with the library, and my arms are open because of the love for the Carnegie and immense love. So when it comes to screening it online and making it completely available, we organize virtual events like this one on Homelessness Action Week. So for the whole week, the film is available, and I'm really happy to be able to do so because I really believe in providing meaningful content for free. And
Great.
so this is gonna be the our way, and there are tons of projects coming out for us at Movies Move Us. So yeah, it's really exciting.
Yeah, I want to attest to the fact that for since its first screening at VIF Van City Theater, which I think had sold out audiences for about a month, right? It was there for a month at the
Yeah,
Van
it
City.
was crazy. It
Yeah,
was really crazy
and then
experience.
and then since then, I think you've toured with it. You've showed it at different community centers, schools. You've had public talks. So it's definitely a film that's gained a bit of grassroots momentum in and of itself. So it's great that it's experiencing this afterlife online, and it's continuing to spark discussions. I think it's in a lot of ways, it still speaks to today. What's post-pandemic Downtown Eastside is not so different from the one of 2018, 2019. So still to reflect, to echo Jean's statements, keep the visibility on the film, on the discussions, and not to lose sight of the people who it reflects.
Yeah, and Mike and Jean or Armand, do you guys have any last questions? Any last comments that you'd like to make?
I'm just wondering what you're doing since you made the film.
Mhm.
What are you doing there in Italy?
That's a great question, Jean. Since the release of the film, well, the pandemic came through, which made things a little bit more challenging for physical screenings and everything that was related to the process of getting the film out there. I gave myself to short films, to some short documentaries here and there, some advertising, while I was trying to understand the process of this pandemic. And now I'm here in Venice. I'm preparing the next project. Unfortunately, I cannot share the details, but I am extremely excited about it. I feel like there is no other place where I should be in the world right now, no other thing that I should do in the world right now, as this is really calling for a message that's relevant everywhere in the world. And this is definitely not a goodbye to Vancouver. I'm definitely going to be back. A huge part of my soul lives there, and this is just a momentary time for me to complete this project and then find my way back there to Vancouver with lots of love, and who knows what are the projects. So yeah. And what
Great.
about you guys, Mike, Jean? What are you guys up to?
Well, I keep focusing on the music. The music is the key for me, and yeah, just keep trying to grow and yeah, develop.
And I'm just doing boring old city council.
Thank goodness we have you there, Jean.
Mhm.
Thank goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, maybe this is a good time to remind everyone who we all are and maybe where we can find each other. As Ruggero was just saying, he's uh, erstwhile local filmmaker, now based in his home country of Italy, director of V6A and founder of Movies Move Us, the co-sponsor of this event. Mike, I think in normal times is a staple at the Carnegie Center. These days, I think it's more difficult to pop in and see him. But I think hopefully the sing-along choir will be starting up again soon, no?
Yeah, we definitely hope so. Yeah, as soon as possible, as soon as circumstances permit.
Great. And again, yeah, Jean Swanson, longtime anti-poverty activist in Vancouver and co-member of City Council since 2018, and she still keeps the fire lit in City Council. So great to have you there, and thanks everyone for joining this conversation. I think unless everyone has any last words, we can leave it there.
Well,
Okay. Bye-bye, everybody.
I'd just like to say, thank you for allowing me to have a conversation with some of my favorite people.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was nice to see you and nice to meet you, Armand.
Thank you. You too. Yeah, and thanks everyone for joining us. The replay of this talk will be online as well. So, cheers.
Awesome. So meaningful. Thank you so much, guys. Much love to you all. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Ciao. Bye.
Goodbye, all.
And bye, all out there watching. Ciao, ciao. Thank you for being here. Bye.